Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin and welcome to episode 22 of Rushcast, the show where we have been going through the entire back catalogue of Canada's finest export is Rush. No, not maple syrup, Rush. And yeah, I'm joined ever by my co-host, drummer extraordinaire, Paul Conroy of Audioscope. Check out their debut album, Secrets and Lies. And yeah, we've made it. We've made it. We've gone from what was the first 1974, 75?
Yeah,
1974. Self-titled. We've covered side projects and solo albums, but here we are. The final foray, Clockwork Angels. Where to start on this one, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember this was the one. This is. I always have an ongoing theory. It wasn't me that came up with it. It was actually Steve Harris of Iron Maiden, and Sir Steve Harris, if that's what he should be known as. But he said he'd noticed that whenever he'd spoken to people, he noticed a pattern, and it was everyone's favourite Iron Maiden album is the first one they bought. And I think that applies to a lot. I think everyone's favourite Doctor Who, everyone's favourite James Bond. There's your Doctor Who, the one you grew up with, and the one the first one your dad took you to the cinema to see. That's your film, And I think we all have a certain connection to. You could say yes, this is a band's best album, or you recognize a classic, but you'll always have a soft spot for the one you got on release day. That's your album of whatever said band. And I came to the Rush party extremely late. Me and Paul worked together, and we got talking about music and all the rest of it. And you said to me, "Do you like Rush?" And I said, "I don't know where to. I wouldn't know where to start with them." And it was you that started lending me CDs. And if you like this one, try that one. And yeah, so Clockwork Angels was the one I was there for release day. Did we go buy it together? Because this
well, it came with a magazine. I can't remember where I got one from.
This magazine. Yeah. And I remember just getting it in Smith's around the corner from where we were.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. I can't remember if I bought it there or somewhere local. I just can't remember.
Yeah, but
long time ago now. So.
Yeah. So this one was the soundtrack of my summer that year. We got before this, obviously you got the Snakes and Arrows tour. Then the band did the Time Machine tour, where they played Moving Pictures in full.
Mm-hmm.
But they released a single, first two tracks off this album, and they put those two songs in the set. Were they were they recordings from this album though? Were they?
They are the recordings from this album, but they got tweaked a bit. And with BU2B, there's the acoustic bit that was.
You've got a little intro, haven't you? Yeah.
Whereas on the single version, it's just straight in.
But
and they just got.
It was a long time coming as well. It was, we've got a new album coming out, and it's called Clockwork. Normally, you don't get the title and everything until, you get like the title, the tracks, release date, this full shebang. But it was just we've got there's an album coming, and it's called Clockwork Angels, and they've released a single for it, but we don't know anything else about the album. And it was quite funny. So when it finally did come out, it was just sort of it had a bit of mystique about it already. So this is the first. Well, they say it's their first concept album, but what was Hemispheres not a?
It is, but it's their first concept album. In other words, complete.
An entire,
whereas you'd had plenty of side concepts, with Hemispheres
or multi-part songs,
and 2112, and Farewell to Kings. There were certainly big chunks of it that were conceptual, but this is a full concept album, and it's the only one.
Yeah. So fantastic artwork all the way through. Apparently, there is an extended liner note. I was just reading a second ago. It's got a steampunk theme to it. Steampunk. If you don't know what that is, don't ask, because it's really hard to explain. You kind of reckon when you see something that is steampunk and you go, "That's steampunk." Then you recognize it from then on. It's something you recognize when you see, but it's really hard to describe. So it's kind of like an alternative future, where the Industrial Revolution didn't happen. Is pretty much the bare bones of it. And it really was all the rage for a little while as well. But
it was.
In fact, there was around this same year as well. The guitarist from Napalm Death put out a solo album. I wonder if I've got it up here. And it was called Menace. I can't remember what the album title was called, but it was, Napalm Death's guitarist doing guitar and vocals. A guy on drums, Derek Roddy on drums, who's known for being on a multitude of death metal albums. And who was on bass? Can't remember who was on bass. And then when you heard it, it was just, this sounds nothing like we was expecting, because it sounded a lot like this. And the artwork on that had the whole steampunk thing as well. And Mitch Harris is his name. He had like a top hat on, but all this part of his face was all robotic and clockwork. Looks really cool. And it's clean vocals all the way through it, no screaming, no nothing. And it's heavy as, I don't know, as maybe as heavy as Dream Theater would get, or heavy. It's got, balls behind the guitar, but it's very melodic and very complete surprise. And that was a great album, and it complemented this perfectly, So they obviously did a tour off the back of this as well. On this tour was the first time as well they had an orchestra with them. Granted, it's not a big one, but a string section nonetheless.
It was an 8-piece string ensemble.
And I cannot, I don't understand, but for some reason on the Time Machine tour, they played Caravan and BU2B as a precursor, as a giving the audience a little taster of what's to come. And then they pretty much played the rest of the album in full, but they didn't play those two songs. And I can't.
Well, they didn't do BU2B, but they did do Caravan.
Oh, they did do Caravan,
yes,
right?
Yes, they did. Yeah, I've got all the stats and that.
But apart from that, they played the whole album. And why did they just miss the one song out?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't know why, but that they did. So
yeah, and obviously, little Easter egg there. The time on that clock is 21:12.
Yeah,
and I don't know what any of these symbols are, though. I wonder, because where I've got that, I'm intrigued now, and I'm looking for other clues. And
I've got some write up on it, and hopefully that'll divulge. I won't jump the gun. I'll read what I've got, and that'll
go for it. Yeah,
what it is. But
is there this on Don't Disturb as well, because it keeps pinging.
Oh, does it? Right. Yes.
Go on, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm just.
Oh, you so say. I wasn't sure if you had finished. I mean, obviously for you, this being the first album released after you got into them, what was your feelings about getting the album? You've always asked me how I felt on a new release. What was your?
I was looking forward to it. I was excited. I do remember thinking a little bit, not too sure I think about this album on the first listen or so. I thought nothing's really jumping out at me. And that over the course of the week, that changed. This And as I got more used to the songs, and then up by the end of the week.
I think for me it was a bit of a slow burner to start with, but usually the slow burners turn out to be the best ones anyway. And I mean, there was a couple of tracks. I mean, obviously Caravan and BU2B I'd heard, and I did get the single online and whatever, or streamed it or whatever it was. So I knew what they were like, and I'd seen them on the Time Machine tour, so I've seen what they were like. But actually, to get the album like yourself and the booklet, which I can't find, so I don't know where that's gone. But crucially, I've still got the album. Yeah, it was a good album, superb album, and obviously at that time didn't realize it was going to be their swan song. But
yeah, it wasn't announced at the time.
It wasn't announced. It was not announced because there were just so many things going on with them, and I don't know when Peart got diagnosed with the brain cancer that he had. I'm not sure when that happened, but anyway, right. I will, if I read this precursor, and then that'll get us into it, I think.
Okay.
Okay, and not unless you've got anything yourself.
No, you go for it. Yeah.
Okay. It says here, many casual Rush fans are surprised to discover that Clockwork Angels is in fact Rush's first and only true concept album, telling the story of a small town boy with big ideas who eventually heads out to make his mark on the wider world. It is easy to see the autobiographical nods to Peart's own life. Nevertheless, the fantasy steampunk world that colours the story keeps the album firmly in the realms of fiction. The album is as grand in narrative scope as it is in musical ideas. While Snakes and Arrows saw the band tentatively approaching some progressive sounds, Clockwork Angels sees the band throw caution to the wind with complicated and lengthy compositions that are full of the energy and on the edge playing that Rush were renowned for in their early days. At the time, Peart declared that he intended the album to be my highest achievement lyrically and drumming wise. In order to achieve this, Peart was determined to add fluidity, improvisation into his playing. Thus, rather than learning the pieces part by part like he would do, he would roughly familiarize himself with the song and be conducted by returning producer Nick Raskulinecz, in order that while drumming, he could concentrate purely on the performance rather than counting the bars and beats until a particular change. The album was also notable for its considerable use of strings. Parts for 6 violins and 2 cellos were incorporated throughout the album, as well as the lyrics, as well as by the lyrics themselves. Sorry, the album story is told through short companion pieces that are found in the lyric sheet. I think that's referring to the Peddler 1 and 2, which are basically just little bits, but obviously not songs. Clockwork Angels was released to almost universal acclaim, with fans praising the band for tapping into the complex, high-energy music that coloured much of their early work. The album is at once the band's most mature effort and also arguably one of their fiercely energetic. The album, unlike many concept albums, has little in the way of a continuing musical theme and would, BU2B2 aside, arguably work as a collection of songs in any order. The story, like many legendary concept albums, has layers of meaning that grow and develop on repeated listens. Alongside the album itself, the story has been released as a novel and a graphic novel, both written by Kevin J. Anderson, with the latter illustrated by Nick Robel. Producer Raskulinecz was widely credited with encouraging the band to explore many of the high-energy old Rush sounds that made Clockwork Angels so loved, though he was criticised by some for... There's no pleasing some people, is there? Though he was criticised by some for the over-loud production and his encouragement of Lee to sing in a higher register that many regarded as now being beyond his reach. Clockwork Angels, at the time of writing, at the time of this being written, is Rush's final album, which we've obviously found out it is a genuinely progressive effort by a band who were breaking new ground, even on their 20th studio album, released 38 years after their debut. It may well document the proud, well, we know it has, it documents the proud end of an illustrious recording career.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
well, I'm intrigued for all these different editions of it. I did actually read the book with which I think Neil basically outlined, and the other guy filled it in, like made a narrative out of it.
Yeah.
Apparently he's quite a prolific sci-fi writer. I'm not familiar with him, but Neil was apparently a fan.
Yeah, I don't know whether they became friends, but they certainly got to know each other. And Neil,
yeah. What I will say, yeah, concept albums very rarely, they're a tricky thing to pull off, and it does. I would say, I don't think you would fully get the story or fully get the album if you hadn't read the book, and that's not quite. It should be able to stand up on its own, but I still don't really know what Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche's really about. I sort of get it, but
yeah.
It took me years to figure out Quadrophenia, especially because the film is nothing like the story on the album. It wasn't until there was a DVD of The Who playing Quadrophenia in full, and you had the option with Pete Townsend or Roger Daltrey, you had one or the other, talking through the concert and the album, and Pete was giving us song by song, right, this is what was going on in the story. My camera's gone all blurry.
No, you're clear as a bell here.
And it was just like, oh, right, it all makes sense now. And yeah, so it does feel like this is really the soundtrack to the book. But the graphic, I didn't realize there was a graphic novel of it as well. That's quite intriguing.
I didn't know either.
I'll be curious to check that out.
Yeah, I think that would be probably the one I would want to check out.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a masterpiece. I'll just come out.
Yeah, I think it is as well.
It's certainly their later day masterpiece. I think as much as I've enjoyed some of the later albums, this head and shoulders above everything they've done.
Yeah,
I'd say this is probably their best album since Power Windows. And I'd say, well, I would have thought every album the band released in the media would be known as the best album they've done since Power Windows. Just like David Bowie, every album he put out was the best album he did since Scary Monsters.
Yeah.
Every album. It's the best one he's done since Scary Monsters.
Well, it is. It's going to... Yes, it is a fantastic album. And like you, I've listened to this so many times and pretty much know the album inside out. It's going to be interesting when it comes to us giving our top 5 or top 10 or whatever we're doing. It's going to be a difficult one because there are many candidates for great albums. But as we said last week or the week before, I can't remember.
I think top 10 you got too much leeway.
Top 5, possibly. I think top 5 have got to be really
challenger. You got to
really ruthless about.
You got to be ruthless, yeah.
But going back to what we were talking about and touched on with things happening beyond your control, and like for a band and a band's history, I think if Rush had known at the time that this album would be their swan song, I think they would have taken that, because this is one heck of a swan song, isn't it? I mean, it's such a way to go out with a real bang. I mean, this was a very successful album, and it was well received. And the tour, although it wasn't the biggest tour they did, it still was a world tour, and it was obviously their final world tour.
Yeah, because R40 only was only
it was
30,
only not. Yeah, it was only North.
35
It
shows,
was
wasn't it?
35 shows, and I had to double check that and look it up.
Which isn't,
Yeah,
to sniff at, but in
no.
Rush's
In Rush's terms,
yeah,
it's quite a small tour,
it's
really.
blink of an eye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So yeah, what a cracking album to actually finish on. And I personally think, like, this is very consistent right throughout.
It's
I
perfectly
can't. There's
woven
no.
together. Yeah.
It is, and there's no weak songs on this. It's a very, very consistent album, and you go on a journey with this all the way through, or I certainly do, and I'm sure you do as well. And for those who have got it at home and who may be listening in on this, they would probably echo that as well. It's once you listen to it, you can't really stop listening to it until it finishes. And it's quite a long album again, isn't it? It's over an hour again, isn't it?
Is it? I mean,
I think
I thought it was
it
about
is.
50 minutes, I guess.
Oh, it might be. I
I
might have
don't know
got
if it is.
I'd have to look. I thought it was over an hour.
No, you're right. You're right. It's 66 minutes.
It's 66 minutes, but it don't feel like 66 minutes when you listen to it. It just absolutely.
At a guess, I thought it was 50. Yeah. Because the songs aren't overly long. They don't outstay their welcome. There's no.
Well, they don't, although there are a couple that are longer than you think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, the title track itself is 7.5 minutes.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Headlong Flight as well was over 7
minutes. Headlong
minutes.
Flight is the second longest, and that again just absolutely flies by. So, and that's a sign of a good album.
It's not what's the word? Indulgent. It's not all widdly for the sake of it. It's what many a prog rock, as they are known, for better for worse. You'd think they would, especially so far into their career, we're going to do a concept album. You've got Prog magazine now. You've got people being put into different. These they're in there now. They're in the sections with Genesis and Yes and Dream Theater and Marillion and bands like that. So you think, they're going to be. And to this day, I've got friends that no, I'm not into all that. I'm not into 20-minute long songs, and that was in the 70s.
Yeah,
I'll say it to my mate. You listen to Maiden. Iron Maiden are Dream Theater compared to Rush now. Iron Maiden are putting out double albums now with like 15-minute long songs, and then people go, no, I ain't gonna listen to Rush though. That's prog. It's
it just. I think even now you still got a lot of people that sort of look upon Rush as a bit of an oddity, and always regarded as a cult band with a cult following. And I mean, we've talked about this throughout.
But this is again, I said this with Snakes and Arrows, but I think even now, this is where they have molded everything together. This has got the complexity of hemispheres or whatever, but it's got the accessibility of Foo Fighters.
Yes, it's the thing is, it's got so many layers within this music. It's so well arranged, and then you've got a string section on top of this as well.
All three members are on fine form as well.
Absolutely.
No one's taking a back seat. Alex is fantastic on guitar, but he's playing a multitude of different string guitar instruments as well. Geddy's obviously on fine form. I didn't see anything wrong with Geddy's singing voice.
No, I didn't. Not on this.
And of course, Neil is, he's Neil Peart. He's Neil Peart.
He is. Again, lyrics. Fantastic.
Neil Peart could have his arms and legs cut off like the night in
Holy Grail,
and it's still drum better.
It's still drum better than me. That's
with one drumstick in between his teeth.
Basically, yeah. It just, just an altogether a superb album, superb performances, and just a nicely packaged album as well. I love it. I think it's a great
It is the full package. Yeah,
It
it's
is a
got
full
everything.
package.
Yeah.
It's just got everything in it. So terrific stuff. Let's are we gonna crack on with the songs?
Let's get into the songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So opening up with Caravan, it starts off with a cinematic introduction. It starts building up. You've got a couple of noises here and there, and then like a horn blowing up, boom, 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 and then boom, and then we're kicking in, and then the lyrics of the song start. Yeah. It's even like it starts introducing the story, doesn't it? In a world.
Yeah.
What have we got here? In a world lit
only by fire.
Lit only by fire. So that's the steampunk world.
Yeah.
You do get a couple of notes actually in this. Like a couple, you get a
there's a little
introduction.
Yeah.
Narrative. With this, but introducing each song, and then you get the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then so you've got this good, kicking riff. It's Rush are back doing what they do, and I just love the way it builds up to the chorus where you think it's going to kick in, and then
it lays right off.
It lays right off, but it's as if the roof opens.
Yeah.
And you just see all the flying zeppelins and it's like a door being pulled in a film, and then introducing you to the world.
I think when I've got like DVDs with like purely from a drumming point of view. He said doing this particular song, I mean, just the title of the song, Caravan, is almost cinematic anyway, and they wanted to get that feel on this particular song, and so hence with that sort of tension of that intro, and then the boom boom, and then in with that really strong riff, and again it's got it all in there. You probably don't hear it, but there are time signature changes, extra beats added and dropped here and there, and that's during the verses. So, and then you get that lovely expansive chorus where it just opens out and there's just so much air, and again it just brings the lyrics to the front of it.
Yeah, and obviously it goes into some other little directions as well. It's got that nice little da 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 da, bit. Yeah, you got a pretty cool solo as always. That chorus as well. Yeah. In a world where I can't stop thinking big, in a world where I feel so small, I can't stop thinking big. And again, this is somewhere where the world is opening, and the main character wants to explore. Yeah. And just a great way to open the album, and it's full of intrigue as well. You know you're not getting the full picture revealed, but it is a good introduction.
I think your analogy of like a Bond film with a precursor, this sort of sets the scene anyway for it. I know sometimes with the Bond ones they can be slightly detached from the actual main, but I think this definitely sets the stall out, and it draws you in. It draws you in and say, right, here we go. Yeah, come along and see what else we've got to share with you. And it's a superb opening. And again, I think like the previous albums, it comes in, boom, what a great opener, I've got a couple of tiny little paragraphs about this. It says here, along with its B-side, BU2B, Caravan was originally released as a single, which you've already talked about, and that was in 2010, which was 2 years before the release of the album. After returning from the successful Time Machine tour, the two songs were subtly remixed while work on the rest of the album began in earnest. Caravan sees the album's protagonist looking back on the start of his life, a frustrated young man desperate, like Peart was, to break away from the apparently idyllic life on the farm where he grew up. At last, he starts his journey and escape from the quiet life into the city. In a world where I feel so small, I can't stop thinking big, as you've already said. So it says what it does. But again, with this, I do like the solo section. I mean, obviously Alex is playing what he's playing, but Piet and Lee are really working overtime underneath that. Some really interesting polyrhythms and playing off of one another.
Yeah.
It's really superb. And then the big accents, and then straight back into one of them expansive choruses again. It's superb. When they played Clockwork Angels live, you could with the 8-person string ensemble behind them, you could really feel the strings. You could really hear them coming through, even through that loudness of the PA and everything. It was really very, very uplifting, really superb. I mean, they captured it really well. So, no, great song, great song. So, we move on.
Let's move on to the next track. We've again, why they played the whole album and not this in the set, I do not know.
Answers on a postcard, please.
We should have gone to the Geddy Lee show so we could ask that question.
Yeah, we
but
should
anyway,
have done. Perhaps somebody did. I don't know.
I think this is arguably probably it's up there. It was my favorite song on the album. It's certainly probably my first go-to song of the album, and I think this album kind of stands on its own. It's got its own.
Well, it is. Apart. I mean, obviously, it was originally titled "Brought Up to Believe," but then when they were working on it in the studio, they just said "BU2B," and that stuck.
I mean, this is without doubt Rush's heaviest song, hands down.
On this album, yes.
I would say it was their heaviest song at all. I think this.
It's got. I have to admit, it's got some. It is quite bombastic.
I could picture, like a Rage Against the Machine or Muse playing this song.
Yeah.
When that beat comes in, that main riff, that dun 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 dun, the beat underneath it's real choppy and.
It is choppy, and the thing on this one is, and Piet said it had been a long time since he'd used a crash cymbal as a ride, so you're getting that real, which is almost harkens right back to Black Sabbath and how Bill Ward would play, So there's all of that as well. Where it just it is very, very, as you said, it is heavy, very, very heavy for them. And again, I think this was what have I got about this? Says differing from its single version, only with a short acoustic introduction.
Yeah, this one has an introduction.
Yeah,
on the single, it just goes straight in.
Yeah,
and I do prefer this version. I think.
Yeah,
I think nice little setup. It definitely.
And I think with regards to that, what was the bit? I did have something about that. Oh right, there we go. I thought I saw I had something. The acoustic intro for BU2B was not recorded at the studios. It was recorded by Alec Lifeson at his home studio and then added in. That was how it was done. And we'll go to, I mean, I know we haven't talked about where it was recorded, but we'll get to that a bit later.
Yeah.
It says here, BU2B is a stridently heavy rock song with a furious, sarcastic lyric. Continuing many of the themes discussed on Snakes and Arrows, this song describes the way that beliefs that are introduced to children at a young age insidiously become a part of that person forever. The loving watchmaker refers to the big brother style leader who is in this story responsible for every aspect of life in the Clockwork Angels universe. The title is perhaps a reference to the watchmaker analogy, an argument that posits that the universe must have been created by intelligent design, for without a mind behind it, the argument asks, how could the universe, like a watch, be so finely constructed within such infinitely small tolerances? And again, it says here, Piet describes the song as faith bashing, which was something he sort of come under fire for. At this early point in the album story, the protagonist begins to doubt that his fate is sealed. Perhaps he can have more control over his life than any first thoughts. The song's lyrics are peculiarly arranged, with the first half of the song using elements of the pantone, which he used on one of the Snakes and Arrows albums. The first half of the song using the second line of each verse becomes the first of the next, and so on. I think it was the larger bowl. That was
I never noticed that. Yeah,
I didn't notice that, but that's what it is. I have looked at it and I thought, oh yeah. Because really, when you listen to it, you just listen to the song as it is, don't you? You don't really think, oh, that's a pantone. You know, it's but yeah, it is a weird one that they didn't play this one on the Clockwork Angels tour, but they did play it live on Time Machine. So,
yeah, so the whole album has been played.
It has. Yeah.
I think this song actually stands on its own, and I think this is the perfect song to play someone as an introduction to Rush, especially if someone's into heavier music. I'd go, don't try this song. I think the lyrics are as perfect as a set of lyrics can be in the way they're crafted, the way it all circulates and comes round and sticks to this one subject.
Yeah.
You know, it is. I wouldn't say it was faith bashing.
Well, I'm only going by what's written here.
Yeah, no, I'm just. I know that's not what you're saying, but it is. It's but choosing between order and chaos, isn't it? It's choosing between, and you know, the watchmaker, the architect, however you want to put it. And yeah, I was brought up to believe, and all the, you know, the way it rhymes, it all just perfectly comes together. And believing what we're told until our dying breath, while our loving watchmaker loves us all to death. And I love that, loves us all to, and then just silent death, and then bang, just kicks back in again. Just perfect the way that comes in.
Well, it is like,
and then the strings or keyboards towards the end of the song, you know, it's just a perfect, wonderful song.
Yeah, it's well, all the lyrics on here are extremely good, and I would say that Piet achieved his aim. He said he wanted it to be the best lyrically.
But yeah, I mean, again, one could argue this is a thing on religion. You know, we believe in the watchmaker and the designer and all that. Yeah, maybe, but in this story, the watchmaker isn't divine.
No,
he's not from a higher plane.
No,
the watchmaker in this story is a person, and the universe, but the structure of the city is designed by the watchmaker, and that's what the Clockwork Angels are.
Well, basically, I mean, we'll get to some of the lyrics later about it being a clockwork universe.
Yeah, so
basically what there's
the faith. Yeah, I'm not sure it is a faith. But I mean,
well,
it is there if it's to be interpreted that way, again, I guess. But it's probably more of a big brother. This probably leans a bit more towards that, because that was a theme that Neil always was leaning into, even far back as Anthem.
Yeah.
From Fly By Night. So
it's always it's sort of threaded in there. It's all the way through, really. I'm just looking at some of the lyrics for this. I mean, even the second verse, the universe has a plan, all is for the best. Some will be rewarded and the devil take the rest. It's just just picking out again another verse. It says the joy and pain that we receive, each comes with its own cost. The peace of what we're winning is the same as what we've lost.
Yeah, brilliant line.
I mean, what a terrific just as you say, it just sort of folds it round on itself, really. Terrific song. And as you said, nice, heavy, and some great guitar work on this. I know it's sort of the pyrotechnics and the layering that Alex puts on this is quite, just some of the phrasing is just so good. Yeah, nothing more to say.
Let's go on to the title track then. This has got a great introduction. I love the it conjures up an atmosphere of sunrise over a town. So you got that oh, you know, you just picture this sunrise over, and then the town sort of comes to life. Lights must come on as the sun comes up. Lights come on, then bit of movement, then a bit of thing, then everything's moving and turning, and you just picture this city, I suppose, just coming to life as the sun comes up and as it brightens, everything then starts moving around, and you know you get that the movement of everything, and then you picture the character arriving in the city and taking in everything in. It's very cinematic.
Again, and, it is.
And obviously this takes in into the story as well, where you see the Clockwork Angels, where they're flying over the city, and I think people are meant to think they're real. I think it is a ceremony, and the secret is that they are just like in a clock. You know, the doors open and a figure comes out, and but it's just such a brilliant atmospheric song.
It is. I mean, that intro, as you said, it's just got lots of little incidentals going on, and in the background you can hear Piet just sort of doing little bits on the hi-hat, sort of and then again, and then he comes in proper, and then you get that guitar that just sets up the atmosphere, and you get them big accents coming in, and the guitar's a lot fuller. I mean, what a great way to bring the whole thing in. And then they just gradually build and build and build. And then it adds that, what they call tension and release. You got that tension of that, and it just opens up. And Alex plays a more sparse line. And then, of course, you get the great words coming in. I mean, just, what does it say? High above the city square, globes of light floating in midair. Higher still against the night, clockwork angels bathed in light. And then it sort of all goes very stops, doesn't it? And then you get that really jagged guitar line, and then it really starts pushing along. And to me, they did this sort of, it's almost got that galloping rhythm again, which is what they had on Necromancer. On Cressida Still, but as I said at the time, reminds me an awful lot of the sort of galloping rhythms that Iron Maiden did in the past, and it sort of got again, so they just intersperse that in between, so you're getting this real light and shade again with it. So terrific, absolutely terrific, just how they've married it all together and make it work. It's just superb. Is there anything you wanted to say on the lyrics? Were there any lyrics that really leapt out at you on this?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I just enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah.
As a whole, really. But let's have a quick. I've lost it.
I mean, obviously the chorus, where again they changed the feel of it. The Clockwork Angels chorus there's a lot of tom work going on with Piet, and then you just got the music in front of it just pounding along.
No, I think so the lyrics just paint the picture really that suits the music, but I think the music does most of the talking on this song. It just conjures up a really.
I mean, just the chorus. I mean, Clockwork Angels spread their arms and sing, synchronized and graceful. They move like living things. Goddesses of light, of sea and sky and land, clockwork angels, the people raise their hands as if to fly. I've got a couple of paragraphs about this. Just says here, the album's title track finds a story's hero in the heart of Crown City, with its immense cathedral and floating high above the Clockwork Angels themselves, a world away from the idyllic farm from whence this young man came. The people gaze up in adoration for these beautiful synthetic creations. The world is clockwork, not just in its rigid conformity, but also in its lack of humanity. The population of Crown City are captivated, mesmerized, and ultimately ruled by nothing more than technology. Well, nevertheless, the story's protagonist is overwhelmed by the incredible sight. Is that a smack of what the world is like today, being ruled by technology? Maybe.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
Maybe.
Certainly coming into it.
Well, yeah, certainly. And how much we rely on technology. With huge suspended chords and chorus-laden arpeggios, Clockwork Angels finds Lifeson sounding more like his typical self than he has for years. Lee and Lyson have together created a soundtrack to Peart's cinematic lyric that adds colour and contrast to an already vivid scene. Clockwork Angels finds Peart once again borrowing from a famous literary work. I mean, we would say it's more than that. Lean not upon your own understanding, the angels' command to faith, borrowed from Proverbs 3:5.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. False worship, effectively.
Yeah. And one could argue as well, you know, if someone would take like an atheistic approach to the song lyrics of BU2B,
yeah,
you could say, well, no, we should probably get to that later on, actually. Let's go to that as the story goes on, because we'd be jumping the gun otherwise.
Okay, yeah, sure.
But yeah, so we've got a character who's looking to explore, wants to see the world, knows there's more out beyond the horizon of what he knows. Then you've got, you know, the way the world works with BU2B. The universe has a plan, but we're choosing this and believing what we're told. The clockmaker, watchmaker, even. But then we've got the story in Clockwork Angels of the city and how it runs, and then we're introduced to the anarchist, and this is where things get interesting, because now you've got the other side of the story.
Yeah.
Where the anarchist, he doesn't want to be ruled, doesn't want to live in the clockwork world, and is effectively a terrorist, because he's blowing stuff up and is causing chaos. He's causing unpredictability. But yeah, let's get into the music, though. I mean, what a great song this is.
It is. It's one of my favourites.
It's really energetic. It picks up.
Yeah.
It's almost got like a racing feeling to it, especially with that and then another riff just comes in underneath, over the top of it, like it's overtaking it.
Yeah.
Again, it's got everything. Fantastic chorus as well. That riff, full of hooks, full of memorable lines. Again, it's quite climatic towards the end as well, with the strings, and a lyric that stands out for me is the missing part of me that builds. No, let me get this right. Hold up. It's
Go on. Yeah, it's the last line of the chorus.
A missing part of me that grows around me like a cage. What a line.
Yeah. I mean, just that chorus anyway, the whole thing. I mean, the lenses inside of me that paint the world black. The pools of poison, the scarlet mist that spill over into rage. The things I've always been denied. An early promise that somehow died. And then that line. I mean, just wow. Yeah. It is. It's definitely got that anarchic feel to it. I think musically, it's just got it. It's just got that edginess to it. Just the way it comes in, it demands your attention. So you're going to listen to this. You might not like it, but you're going to listen.
You're going to listen to it.
Yeah, you're going to get it. You know, and it is arguably one of my favourites on the album. I do like this one. I just like the way it comes in with the drum intro, and it's a nice, interesting rhythmic tom work to bring it in, and then it just lays it down. But I like the climax where it builds up and it sort of almost slows down, but it's really strong. It's very heavy, but the bass and the drums sort of almost go half time, and it just leaves that space for Lyson to just do a little bit, and you get the strings there as well. It just creates that little bit of extra tension to it.
Yeah, it's
which I really, really liked. I'm just looking at what it's. I think there's something in here. Yeah, there is. Here we go. I'll share this with you. It says here, with its furious and unruly instrumentation, this song takes us inside the mind of the anarchist, a malevolent character who represents the antithesis of the stiflingly precise watchmaker. A wandering peddler asks, "What do you lack?" That's from the little bit that's sort of in front of it on the lyric sheet, not on musically. It says, "What do you lack?" The anarchist sneers, "Ah, vengeance." Full of hatred and envy after a lifetime of pain, the anarchist finds himself determined to exact revenge on those who are happier and more successful than he. Lee decided to give the anarchist an 8-string bass vibe. I forgot about this bit. By multi-tracking 2 basses an octave apart. This offered more flexibility to control the tonality post-recording rather than just using an 8-string bass. The anarchist, so that really gives, that's why it has that real thick sound on the bottom end of the song. The anarchist finds Rush utterly unrestrained in a way that they have not chosen to be for many years.
Yeah.
Producer Nick Raskulinecz has a particular affection for this song, as he describes. So this is a quote from him. "To me, it's all about the riff, and this riff takes me back to the old days. That was one of the cool things about working on this record, helping Rush to know that it was okay to be like this. You guys can do this," he said. "You guys did this a long time ago. You can do it again. You own it."
Yeah.
Vocally, it was about getting Geddy up into that high register where he belongs. His energy level is pretty cool here. And that's what Nick Raskulinecz said about the performance on this particular song. And I think they sort of, to counter, some people were just sort of saying, well, no, Geddy shouldn't be singing up there anymore. He can't do it.
What do they know?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, terrific song. Loved it, and still love it to this day. So, should we move on to Carnies?
Yeah. I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Carnies.
What do you think of that opening riff? Because that's quite. You know,
does it remind you of something? It doesn't remind me of anything off the top of my head.
It's but again, a dirty riff.
It is quite a filthy riff.
Yeah.
From him, but it's such a difference to. I suppose it makes it sound all the more filthy because in front of it you've basically got like fairground attractions and hearing children cheering, which is always happy and light, and then you get that real filthy riff come in. But it doesn't remind me of anybody, not off the top of my head. Does it remind you of any other artist?
It just reminds me of a real heavy artist, or any given heavy band, like for the 90s. But
and it really,
I'd even say it's even kind of Sabbathy. It's
it possibly does. Carnies, yes, it says here, and I'll just share what it's got here. It's only a couple of paragraphs. Returning to the story's hero, we find him having found work in a traveling carnival. The music is of the intense lifestyle of the traveling performer. Heavy riffs and unusual tonality, coupled with another cinematic lyric, bring to mind the sights, sounds, and smells of this steampunk fair. The glint of iron wheels, the smell of flint and steel, which is a couple of lines. In the second half of the song, a face of naked evil appears, which is the anarchist. Yeah. He throws a time bomb towards the protagonist, who automatically catches it. His friends and colleagues turn to see him holding the bomb and assume the worst, escaping with his body intact, but his life is in ruins. Our hero now finds himself utterly alone in the world. Despite the intense and unruly music, Carney's successfully melds heavy, hard rock with memorable and emotive melodies, something of a coming together of early and modern Rush.
He falls in love with one of the he falls in with a touring carnival, kind of a circus or roaming gypsies, I suppose, or something, a carnival, traveling carnival, and he falls in love with a girl there. I think in the next song, the angel with the wings on
Halo Effect is the next one.
But I think that's a reference to the circus performance.
Yeah.
But you know, like sandals with wings on. So that's what that what is it? The the goddess with wings on her heels.
That's it.
And I think that's a thing to the act that she performs. But he falls in love with her, and that's what we've gone on to the next song now. But what would I think fool that I was is he thinks he's fooled himself into thinking that she was interested in where the separations happen at this point. But it's a happy ending because he actually gets it wrong. And when she comes back, it was, no, we knew all along you were a good egg, and no, you completely misread that thing at all. I was interested the whole time, and so this is the next song is a downer, but it comes better later on. But this is a great song because there's just so much going. They cram so much.
Well, that's it. I think they've done that on all these songs. There's just so many ideas.
It's not even 5 minutes. It's 4 minutes and 51 seconds, and just so much goes on, and so much is chopped up, and yet it all works. It all flows.
It does. It really does. It's again just great song, brilliantly arranged, and what more can we say about it? I mean, it's just again, it's not a weak song. It's a really strong song, and I'm just looking again at more of the lyrics, whether there was anything under there. No, I think basically what I've said basically describes these lyrics anyway. So otherwise I'll end up quoting the whole lot again. So no, it's terrific.
It's just a great song as well. It just pushes the album along as well.
It does. It certainly gives it a little bit of context, I think, of where he is at this point in his life, and the problems that he's sort of come up against, really, and obviously his encounter with the anarchist. So terrific stuff. And now we might as well move on to Halo Effect.
This song is just gorgeous. It's lyrics aside, I mean, I think this again another trick that this pulls that so many concept albums fall flat on. It's that sometimes they end up telling the story takes over and the music suffers. Sometimes they write really good music and they can't quite cram a story together out of it, and they have to kind of wing it. Other people, the story takes over and they're writing music to fit it. So another thing that this does pull off that many fail to do is that the songs do work on that, they do stand on their own. And I think Halo Effect is another song that you don't need to know it's part of a concept album.
No.
You don't need you don't need to know the story. You could play this as someone just independently, and the song works. I mean, this came out in the summer as well. So as I said with the title track, the music of this just conjures up like a fresh morning. The sun's not quite up yet, but the sky is all different lovely colours, and it's going to be hot later on, but it's a real cool breeze now. It just captures like a crisp morning, just the way the atmosphere comes in, and then you've got that opening guitar effect, and it's melancholy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Lyrics as well. And then when it does kick in, just for the chorus, it's just got a nice. It just grooves along
it's
nicely.
a good groove to it. Yeah.
It's not so much a solo, but I don't know if it's a mandarin but that is another type of with that.
I'm trying to remember what
it's
it is.
It's just a nice little melody just to round the song off. But overall, it's just a really, really nice song. Just really fantastic.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
It is a lovely album. It sort of closes the first half of the album, really.
Yeah.
This song.
Because if say this was a play, that would be where the intermission could, because everything's he's been framed for something he hasn't done.
Yeah.
He's on the bad side of the anarchist isn't who he's trusted him to be. He's fallen in with a group of people that he wanted to belong to, but he's now fallen out with them. Everything's come crashing down. Yeah, curtains drop, lights up.
Yeah,
ice cream for sale at the front.
That's it. And then will now be a short intermission.
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, and it says here, halo effect is a psychological phenomenon where confirmation bias leads us to make illogical judgments about a person, believing them to be who we would like them to be rather than who they actually are. This song is exactly about that. The protagonist had, before his exile, fallen in love with one of the carnival performers, as you already shared. All my illusions projected on her the ideal that I wanted to see. Musically, Halo Effect has the band take a step back from the burning intensity of the album so far.
This is a breath of. It is.
It's a breather. A slow tempo arena rocker. Halo Effect is a short and laid back display of songwriting maturity. And it says here it closes the album's first half. So it is a nice. I mean, just opening with the acoustic guitar. I can't remember what instrument guitar he uses on that musical piece. It just says guitars.
Let's have a look here. It doesn't even. Maybe it says it in there.
I'm just looking at what it says here.
It just says guitars, keyboards.
Yeah.
Strings on Halo Effect? No.
I mean, there are strings on Halo Effect, but
but no, it
doesn't say anything about the extra.
Let's have a look on old Wiki.
Yeah, see if we
they don't let us down today. No, guitars, keyboards, right?
Yeah, that's all.
Maybe it's just a guitar. It just sounds different.
Yeah, I think it might just be that he's got a particular effect on it. I think
that's how good Alex Lifeson is. He can just play the guitar and it just make it sound like it's
something. Yeah. Well, it just makes it sing, doesn't he? So
yeah,
I think that's the brilliance of the man, you know.
Right, so brilliance. Let's open up the second half then. We get 7 Cities of Gold, which opens up with Geddy indulging in a bit of slap of the bass, as we had it in I Love You Man.
Yeah.
And this brings to mind some of their some of the 90s material when there was a bit of funk involved. You got again Geddy slapping the bass.
Yeah.
And Neil comes in with a bit of sort of percussion, sort of like he's drumming around on some.
Yeah, there's some cowbell and stuff like that in there as well.
We need more cowbell.
Bell, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, but it's all off of a very sort of fairly loose sounding sort of 16 pattern on the hi-hat with the offbeat bass drum, boom, just locking it down and then playing off of that. Yeah, I mean, just very, very clever. It just leaves the space there and just gives a little bit of backdrop for what Geddy's doing on the bass. And then, of course, you get Alex coming in, sort of just soaring in with a few little effects, and then he picks the riff up, doesn't he? And then gradually it just sort of a bit more of a stronger beat behind it, and then comes in with that riff, which is quite a long riff, really. I mean, it goes over quite a few bars, but it just, yeah, again, it's quite a strong sounding song, this. I'm just looking at what it says in here about the...
It's one of the heavier ones as well.
Yeah, again, yeah. And again, it's not again, this is over 6 minutes, about 6.5 minutes, this one. Whereas Halo Effect is apart from BU 2B2, this is the shortest song on the Halo Effect is the shortest song on the album. But Seven Cities.
It's a shame that song doesn't go on longer. Actually, I always find.
Yeah,
I want it to last a lot, but then again, that might be a mark of a good song. It's
maybe
rather too short than.
Yeah, it's all. But yeah, this is another pretty long song, really. So 6.5 minutes. Yeah, but what does it say here? It says here, it's going back to the narration. Broken-hearted, lost, alone, and with nothing to lose, our protagonist crosses the Western Sea for Poseidon, a tough port city. Here he worked for a time before setting out to the Red Rock Desert in search for now I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's the name of a city, Cibola, Cibola or Cibola or Gibola, the most famous of the 7 cities of gold. Peart claims that Cormac McCarthy, author of No Country for Old Men, was a big influence. Obviously, was a big influence on the ideas for this song. In reality, the 7 cities of gold, while never found, were genuinely believed to exist in the region of what is now New Mexico. While in the process of conquering the New World, some explorers even claim to have seen the cities, though they were unable to reach them. Nevertheless, exploration parties, especially of Spanish conquistadors, whatever that word means, basically Spanish conquests, were repeatedly sent in search of the elusive cities. With its funky feedback-soaked intro, 7 Cities of Gold quickly develops into a 60s-style British invasion riff vehicle. The addition of a howling organ and driving time-shifting chorus lift the song to further heights. Again, you wouldn't think it changes time signature, but it's there. Lee's vocals wailing in their upper register, reminiscent of Rush's earliest
There was
releases.
a cartoon series as well called The Cities of Gold. Something and the Lost Cities of Gold. It was really good as well.
Yeah, I'm trying.
And they discover this. It's like a giant golden eagle, but they sit in it like a plane.
Okay.
And this sort of cobra comes out of the thing, and then that becomes the steer, like the gear stick sort of thing. Right. And I remember describing it to someone, and they went, "Did you just dream this?" Like,
well, I was the same.
The more you talk, the less it makes sense. I was like, "No, it was real. It was called the Cities of Gold. There's a giant eagle, and it's."
Yeah, was you on something,
no,
or had you had some very, or had you had some very strong cheese late at night?
Yeah,
it just. I can't recall it. I've got
the lost
Yeah.
Cities of Gold. Here we go. The Mysterious Cities of Gold animated series. There was it.
Oh, it was an animation.
Yeah,
it was animation. Right. Okay.
And it was great. Well, I remember.
Yeah. When was it? When was it made? When did it come out?
set in 50. Here we go. I found it. I was Spanish. I thought it was the way it was animated. I thought it might have been like a Japanese.
Right. Okay.
Because it reminded me a little bit of Pokemon, like the style of the animation.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But Pokemon's been going around for ages, but I was never even aware of Pokemon until
Pokemon was around when my kids were young.
Yeah, I was just finishing school, and the only reason I saw it is because I used to call into a friend on the way to school, and his little brother was watching it on the kids' TV.
Yeah,
and that was the first I saw it. Right, so it ran from 1982 to summer of 1982 to 1983, and it was 39 episodes.
Right. Okay, so that predates Pokemon because I think Pokemon was 90s.
Oh right, so
I think it was.
I thought it went on
kids
for ages in Japan, and then it came here
Oh, it
later
might have.
on. Yeah,
You might have to Google that. I don't know.
I'm not that bothered about it.
No,
but when I first saw Pokemon, I thought this looks like Mysterious Cities of Gold. Just the way the style of the anime, the way the faces are, and you know the eyes and animated eyes.
Of course.
But yeah, I just remember thinking this looks really old. This looks like an 80s cartoon. And yeah, perhaps it was older because a lot of that Japanese animation really sort of found its feet later on over here. And I think a lot of the comics and the cartoons were sort of the basis for computer games that we got here. And then I think with the age of with the internet and as well, everything's just blown up in it.
Well, of course it has. Yeah, suddenly it's gone beyond all recognition, really.
But yeah, so 7 Cities of Gold. It must be an old.
Yeah.
An old. Because there's El Dorado as well, isn't it? That's the City of Gold.
Well, yeah.
The Legend of El Dorado. Not the soap in the 80s, but of all the English people that have moved out to Spain.
that was anything but golden. That was.
But what a great song, though. Let's get back to
it was a great song, and it is a great song.
I'm gonna blaspheme. I brought them up before, and I know, and you went, dude, what? How dare you put Rush in the same sentence then? But there's a bit here that does remind me a little bit of U2.
Okay.
And I love the way this song sort of keeps its best weapon in its back pocket right to the ends, because this could have been a chorus on its own and it would have been a main hook for a song. But Rush don't need to do that because they're Rush and they're brilliant. But at the ends, they pull out a melody. And I'm just getting the lyrics here. Just the last bit. And no, where is it? Yeah. The nights grow longer the further I go. Wake to waking. And when that kicks in, it's just the power behind it. I mean, he's singing it a lot more thingy than I was. I've just gone a very low, just keeping it. But he's singing it really high, and just the guitar underneath it as well. And that little section, the way the guitar reminds me of something the Edge would have done, and Bono would definitely have soared over the top of that. The way Geddy does, like it just and the way it just seems out of the song and just just flies over the top of it. And it's like that alone would have been a chorus. There would have been a main hook, and they could have repeated it a couple of times, but they just do it that once in that section.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's like the song builds up to it as well, and you've just got this great little mini epic in the song, and then it goes back to what it was. But what it was fine anyway. But
oh yeah, definitely. It was again, it's another good song. You know, what can you say about it? It is.
I've been bringing you two up a lot in these, and I'm not even that big a fan. I'm not even that much of a fan of them.
I mean, some of the U2 stuff I do quite like, but I don't like everything they've done. So I don't think it's a bad analogy with it being U2. I think you just you can, if you really listen, you can probably hear influences from all sorts.
I think people forget. I do think people forget that U2 were a band once. Now they're, before Bono became a politician and they just became this institution. People actually forget underneath it all, there was actually once. It was actually just a band. Yeah.
It's almost become a franchise, I guess. which is become so much bigger than what it was initially.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's, I don't know what price success, I suppose.
I would have thought, yeah, probably everything up to Joshua Tree, I think would be.
Yeah. I mean, I do like Joshua Tree. I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Joshua Tree,
up to and including Joshua Tree. Yeah.
Maybe Actung Baby has got some at its moments, but that's when they start getting a bit weird. And then after that, it was a bit.
It was a bit hit and miss after that. I mean, I've got the album How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. That's not bad. It's not a bad album. But I don't think it's as consistent as their earlier stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm losing track here where we were. The only comment I've got on the end of that is just the last little sentence, which is taking it back to where this is in the story. It says here, with winter setting in and close to death, our story's hero begins to accept that if the cities exist at all, he will never discover them. So basically, he's on a journey here, and he's actually trying to find them throughout this song. I
can't remember what that bearing that had on the story. It was I read the book not long after the album came out, so it was a long time ago. But...
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Should have got the magnifying glass for some of these bits. Yeah, I've already said all of that. That's it. Yeah, it basically trying to discover this. Again, I don't know how it's pronounced. I don't know if it's Cibola or Shibola, whatever this the most famous. Anyway, it's a famous one of the 7 cities of gold, and that's it. And basically, our protagonist, he doesn't find them, and it's in the height of. I mean, that bit that you mentioned, was it the nights grow longer, the farther I go, wake to aching cold and a deep Sahara of snow. And there's the last 2 lines, that gleam in the distance could be heaven's gate, a long awaited treasure at the end of my cruel fate. So,
brilliant. Yeah,
it's superb, really. But I think we're going into another one of my favourites on the album, The Wreckers.
Let's get into it. This is one of my favourites as well. Great chorus on this one.
Yeah.
Opening, nice sort of radio-friendly opening chords of this one. And then goes into a nice melancholy verse.
Mm-hmm.
And then, builds up to a nice chorus, and then sort of another big chorus, really, with the all I know is that sometimes you have to be wary of a miracle too good to be true, and isn't that the truth?
Well, yes. Yeah, it is definitely.
I think this is where he's now come in favor with the watchmaker. So in the story, he ends up befriending both the architect or the watchmaker and the anarchist. And both are sympathetic, both present their argument, and he doesn't know where he stands or where he really aligns, because he relates to both and sees both's point. But this is the thing, this is what we're all on. Are we going with the control mechanism that wants to keep things in order, but therefore you have to be kept in order, and you go, well, no, I want to choose. And if freedom comes with pain, then I'm going to have to take the pain. And that you could say this is the Garden of Eden as well. It's, well, we chose. Well, if we can't choose good, are we really good? So we want to be able to have free will, but that comes with it death and pain and suffering. But also, and that's the game. That's the first domino flicked, isn't it? So it's the age-old analogy, and this is where our character is, and who is he going to choose towards the end? And well, we will find out when we get there. But
me too.
But yeah, I think this one's a bit more. I can't remember if this is the anarchist or the watchmaker. One of them's presenting him with a deal, so to speak, and it's he's not sure. So it sounds too good to be true.
Well,
I would have thought this was the watchmaker, because then the anarchists can then come in and go, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it is. I think it is.
Is this the one? I don't know if this is this song. It might be the next song, but what a fantastic line.
Go on in. What's the line you're thinking of?
Sometimes the angels punish us by answering our prayers. Is that in this song or is that the next song?
Oh.
It's full of one-liners, this album. And it's full of...
No, it's not. It's not the next one. It's I'm just looking in this. It's not this one either. I think you might be... Actually, I think it might be further back. I think we've already gone through that. Or it might be further forward. We'll get to it at some point. Oh, I haven't...
No, yeah, it's not Headlong Flight, is it?
It's not Headlong Flight.
But what a great line that is. It must be Seven Cities of Gold. That would... Maybe.
No, the angels answer our prayers for punishing us, I think.
I'm sure that's a...
Wow.
Yes, no, it's in Carney's.
It is Carney's, isn't it?
How I pray just to get away, to carry me anywhere. Sometimes the angels punish us by answering our prayers.
That's it. That was the third verse. Yeah, it jumped back a bit there. That's all right. That's all right. It's I mean, this song, the records though, it's just such you say, just a nice, and again, it's quite strong. There's a lot of again, just that opening bit with the guitar jangling with that riff, and it's being pushed along with quite a strong beat. But again, it's not on a ride cymbal, it's a crash cymbal going just to give it that wall of sound. And then, of course, the thing I like on this song in particular is the string arrangement on it. It's just really, really gripping and really creates such an atmosphere, especially when it slows right down when we get to that bit when basically the ship has crashed onto the shore. There's some very hard lyrics on that, and I think I've got quite a bit on this one, on this particular song. I'll just see if I'm going to end up repeating myself, but there's certain lyrics on this one. The breakers roar on an unseen shore. In the teeth of an icy grave, the human chain leaves a bloody stain washed away in the pounding waves. I mean, it's quite a bleak sounding set of lyrics on this. But say, I do like the music, and it's got that weight to it. And it says here, while Rush has always found ways of incorporating sounds associated with their influences into their own music, the record opens with a riff that is so utterly like The Who, and I think you can actually hear that. It is almost jarring. This blast of energy may fool the listener into thinking things are getting better for our unfortunate hero. However, further tragedy awaits. After admitting defeat in his quest to find the golden cities, the protagonist heads back to the city of Poseidon by boat. The ship is caught up in a disastrous storm, and just when hope seems lost, a signal light is seen, drawing the ship towards the supposedly safe harbour. However, the light was placed in order to draw the ship towards rocky terrain, where it would be wrecked and its cargo plundered. The crew and passengers were left to the icy waves, and ultimately the nameless young man at the heart of this story is the only survivor. This horrendous tale is made more so by its basis in fact. Years ago, groups of wreckers would commit this terrible crime off the coast of Cornwall.
Yes, yeah.
Piet became aware of this practice after its inclusion in Daphne du Maurier's Jamaica Inn. If listeners find that the Wreckers has a peculiarly different sound to other Rush songs, the reason is that its writing process was an unusual one. During its writing process, Lee and Lifeson swapped instruments, with Lee composing the jagged rhythm guitar while Lifeson added the smooth gliding bass. Ultimately, they would revert to their native instruments for the recording, but the composition remained largely unchanged. The pair remarked that in swapping instruments, they became the bare naked ladies.
So I was wrong about the narrative of the story. Well, that is what goes on overall in the story, but
yeah,
that's not what's going on in this song. So I was corrected there.
Yeah, but you say, look, yeah, I mean, you've already mentioned the choruses, was it? Well, I mean, it's quite. All I know is that sometimes you have to be wary of a miracle too good to be true, which is what you've already said. All I know is that sometimes the truth is contrary. Everything in life you thought you knew. All I know is that sometimes you have to be wary because sometimes the target is you. Yeah, it has got that slightly almost fatalistic feel to it, isn't it?
Mm.
And as I say, in the backstory is that he's the only survivor. But I like this. This was, I mean, all of these songs were good live, but I remember this one quite distinctly. How they sort of started off,
especially towards the end as well, with the
especially
strings really,
where them strings really come through. It just really adds some weight to it. I really enjoyed this, and it is one of my favorites on the album. It is one of my
I think
favorites.
we've said this.
We've said this for but again,
this is my other favorite song, and this is my favorite.
It's they're all great songs. I think some I do like a little bit more than the others, but again, it's just another really consistent album, and I can't fault it, and I've got no bad words to say about any of the songs at all. So that for me just goes to show what a great album it is to me anyway. Some people would disagree with that, but there we go. I don't think there'd be many because it didn't sell too badly.
Let's get into the next track then, Headlong Flight, where this track opens. You could open a live set with this song on its own.
Yeah.
Just the way that it's great. And it's almost like a soundtrack to a car chase or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
well, I suppose it captures the title, Headlong Flight.
Yeah, and then
it's frantic.
Then it kicks into that mid-pace like chorus with the great searing backing vocals.
Yeah.
And then that great line, "I only wish I could do it all again," which is apparently a quote from Frederick Gruber.
Yeah, which was Neil Peart's latter day sort of drum teacher. He's an old jazz drummer, and he's someone who he got to know very well.
Oh, right.
Freddie Gruber.
Yeah.
And that was his quote. He said, despite everything, I'd do everything again. I'd love to do it all again. So that was the title that stuck. That was the line that stuck with Neil for some time. Again, I'll do this to get the Headlong Flight. Steps back from the album story and sees a storyteller as he is now, in the twilight of his life. Despite all he has endured and the suffering that accompanied many of his adventures, the song's refrain is at its core, "I wish that I could live it all again." Incidentally, this line was taken from a conversation that Piet had with his late drum tutor Freddie Gruber, who had the same wish. There you go. Peart, however, has the opposite attitude. This is not a feeling I have ever shared about the past. I remain glad that I don't have to do it all again. So it's a complete opposite of what. But musically, Headlong Flight is perhaps the most energetic, frenetic piece of music on the album, deliberately referencing the effervescent Bastille Day. The piece is somehow deeply nostalgic but entirely immediate. Lee, Lyson, and Peart each have moments to shine in this lengthy piece, which features individual drum, bass, and guitar solos, in addition to its always extravagant instrumentation. Now, the thing where it says about the effervescent, the bits of Bastille Day, is when it kicks off with Alec, when it cuts back and it goes back to Alec Lyson playing just the riff, and then you hear these doom. They're the sort of things that they did on Bastille Day, and it was a deliberate rip off of themselves for that, to do that. Also, the solo section, I remember Neil talking about this. That middle section with the long guitar solo it's almost jammed, but it's reminiscent of how they were playing Working Man live at that point, and they liked that feel, so they sort of used that influence in this song to get it
because the way Working Man, I mean, it's quite jammy on that studio version on the album, but obviously it must have evolved.
Yes,
the way it was played live, because it was always a set closer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
One way or another. If they close it like the main set,
I think it was usually
the encore.
It's usually the encore.
But again, they did so much with it.
Yeah.
Rearranged.
But that's what they did.
They did a reggae version of it once. What was the song
they did? They did a reggae version of not a complete. It was at the beginning.
No, it's like the beginning of it.
And it was Working Man.
It was Working Man, wasn't it?
Was Working Man, yeah. They've they have mucked around with certain things, obviously just to keep it interesting for themselves, but they definitely did a reggae intro. Like the first sort of verse of it was reggae. But
what do we reckon of the sorry, what do we think of the solo on Headlong Flight?
To me, it just harkens back to how Alex was in the early days. I mean, he's using a wah pedal and all this sort of stuff as well, which is what he was doing on Working Man live anyway, and that's how they wanted to capture that energy of their live performance of Working Man and put it into this song, and hence that's what they've done with it.
It's quite fitting as well, because this obviously would go on to be the last album. The fact that they've kind of given rebirth to their first big hit.
In some ways, musically, it's sort of gone back. It's almost gone full circle, isn't it? Yeah. Again, I don't know whether that was by design or it was just something that.
Just a happy little accident. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just.
I think it was as well, but in hindsight, it's there, design or not, it's there.
It's definitely there, again, considering this is the second longest track on the album at 7 minutes 20, it doesn't feel like 7 minutes 20. It just absolutely rocks along. Terrific, absolutely terrific. But I like you said, it does go to that sort of half time, and it's really very, very strong on them bits. It just ebbs and flows quite nicely on this one. There's not an awful lot of sort of strings and stuff like that on this. It's really just them. This
one's a rocker.
This one's absolutely them letting rip. And it is interesting that you've got not just the guitar side of it, you've got the drum bit and everything like that, and the bass letting rip as well. Fantastic. What a fantastic showpiece for their prowess. You know, I think it's terrific.
Well, we are flying through this one. BU2B2.
Yeah.
Do we really need to cut? I mean, it's just a little interlude, really, isn't it?
It is a little interlude. I mean, it's only effectively 4 verses. I think I'll just share this little bit with you just to give it the context of where it's going. It says here, a return to the story itself. It's a stark one. Our protagonist, finds himself in the depths of despair, which sort of reminiscent of 2112, with the protagonist there in the depths of despair. The beliefs that were at once so close to him have failed him at last. Life goes from bad to worse. No philosophy consoles me in a clockwork universe. Despite the pain of grief, the protagonist is still able to find a measure of love and laughter and another measure to give. The meaning that life once had has gone entirely, but now occupying that space is a belief in the value of love and life itself. Right. The band, it says here, the band struggled to incorporate this BU2B2 into the album, but Peart, convinced it was a vital part, was determined to fit it in. Eventually, the guitars that accompanied Lee's vocals were replaced with a drone of cellos and synthesizers, leaving us with a vaguely Eleanor Rigby-esque track that made it onto the album. This piece, at only 1 minute and 30 seconds, is less a song and more of a segue into the album's final section, a summary of the story so far, and a quiet contrast to the blast of the following track that follows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Which obviously is Wish Them Well. So.
That was needed. Yeah, I'm glad you read that out.
So there you go.
So yeah, we're into the final 2 tracks now. We've got the Wish Them Well. And this is basically what I was saying earlier. You've got the watchmaker, the architect and the anarchist have both presented themselves to him. And basically what both are doing is using him for their own means. He's realized at this point that neither one actually has his interests at heart. And where he's having to choose between these 2 walks, the fact of the matter is he doesn't have to choose either. And what he learns in the end is a lesson we should all learn, and that's just be yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what he learns. That's what he decides in the end. Much like the journey taken by Jimmy in Quadrophenia. Everything comes to a head and he basically just learns love and to love himself and to be okay with himself. And he doesn't have to belong to this, that, the other. He doesn't have to live on these people's terms. He can just be, there's nothing wrong with him. He's all right.
Yeah.
And there's parallels with both albums, I think, with this. And Wish Them Well is basically him tipping his hat to both. And just wishing them well, going, no, not for me. And again, I think this song works. You can take this out of the album and it fits perfectly well on its own. You could give this song to a friend that's going through a bad time. Maybe they're getting out of a relationship. Maybe they've had a business relationship fall apart as well. It doesn't have to be a necessarily a relationship. Fall out with a friend. Maybe the band split up or something to do with work. This is a great lesson and a great song to give someone, or just a great set of lyrics when someone has wronged you. Just let it go.
Indeed.
Just wish them well. If that's the way they are, let them be that way. Because they are no one will mess things up for them more than they will mess things up themselves. And this many a hot-headed lad could be taught this as well. I'm no doubt I've got 2 sons. I'll have to teach them this at some point. You don't have to go for revenge. You don't have to take the world on. Sometimes just take a step back and go, right, you're going to dig your own grave eventually. Just let them do it. You don't have to lower yourself to them.
Exactly.
And yeah, just thank your stars. You're not that way. Just turn around and don't even stop to ask them why. Just turn around and say goodbye and wish them well. And
exactly.
Even as you're walking through hell, just wish them well. Let demons dwell. What a great line as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're walking through hell, just keep walking. As soon as you start to dwell, that's when they've got you.
Indeed. And
it's an uplifting song as well. It's probably quite a brutal message, really, but a necessary one. But it's delivered in a light way. It's an upbeat song, and it, like I said before, this halo effect and BU2B. Did I do that?
BU2, BU2.
Those songs could be separate, and they do sit. They stand up on their own, as well as being part of the narrative. But yeah, this is where the love interest comes back. He hooks back up with the carnival people. Turns out I can't remember exactly what went wrong, but the misunderstanding is cleared up, and he's welcomed amongst them.
Indeed.
And there with them, it was, you don't have to be with them. Don't worry.
Exactly. Yeah, indeed. I'll share what's written in here. Says here, referred to by Peer as the troubled child of the album. The finished song is in fact the third iteration of the piece. The two prior attempts were entirely abandoned. Even when the structure of the song was finally finished, the vocals and drums were altered innumerable times before the band was satisfied with the final product. Ironically, despite its teething troubles, Wish Them Well is one of the simplest tracks on the album, with a straightforward chord progression, no time changes, and by Rush's standards, little musical intricacy. Wish Them Well finds the story of the Clockwork Angels coming to its end. The character has been exiled, broken-hearted, bereaved, and has lost everything except his strength of character. Refusing to be defined by his pain or by those who would have hurt him, he wishes them well and departs. There is no forgiveness for those who have hurt him, though neither is there anger, only indifference. One of Peart's constant lyrical themes of persistence is distilled into one line, which you've already said. So I'm not going to, there's no point.
Which one was that? I said
even though you're going through hell, he says here, just keep on going, but he says just wish them well. License credits the band's long-serving engineer, Rich Chaiki, for the huge and classic sick Marshall sound that gives the song so much of its power on this song. Strident Townsend-style rhythm guitar is once again used to a great effect on this, the album's penultimate song. I think again with this is, I think again, Neil at the time was sharing that there were friends of his that he thought they were friends, but they led him down and basically stabbed him in the back. So it was sort of a reaction to that as well in his own life. I remember reading it somewhere, or I remember him saying it on an interview somewhere about it. So that was sort of the also behind it. And behind these particular set of lyrics. So, but there we go. Again, great song. This one, interestingly, although they did play this one on the tour, they didn't play it every night.
Did they not?
No, I think they rotated it with something else. Not anything else off Clockwork Angels, but I think it was, I can't remember it. There's a few.
The DVD, you tend to get the full.
Yeah. Well, I've got the thing, and there are other songs that came and went, and I think they just swap things around just to keep it interesting for themselves. But I think I don't recall them playing this when I saw them.
Right.
The O2, I don't recall them playing this. Wish Them Well. Just as an aside. So Last one, Joe. The last song.
We've made it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Garden. Where do
Well,
we start with this song?
what a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful song.
I think it's just a light, musically speaking, just a light, mellow, uplifting song. Perfect mixture of acoustic guitars with strings. And yeah, just one of the best sets of lyrics, I think. Well, best set of lyrics I've ever read. A lesson we could all learn, something we could all be reminded of now and then. I think this is it's going to be played at many a funeral.
Yeah.
What a way to say goodbye.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, if this is the last song, I mean, if this is the last, if this is the last song to put on your last album, I think this is the one.
I mean, what a way to finish this album and to finish their recorded works.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. I mean, just superb. I mean, words really sort of fail you, and certainly fail me, as to just how the weight and the emotion and the poignancy of these lyrics, and just the music that goes with it is just
and it also
fantastic.
In the story it concludes what I was saying previously. He doesn't he's listening to two paths where the measure of the life is who do you have in your life. That's your real wealth. And your real, what really matters is who's with you when it all comes to an end. Who's going to turn up to your funeral. The anarchist and the watchmaker probably isn't.
No.
You as a cog in their plan. But he's found love, he's found a community, he's found belonging, and that's what he's looking for all the way through it. From the beginning, really, is what he's
which is ultimately what we're all looking for.
Yeah.
And with the people that matter. I mean, just fantastic. I'll share what's on here. There's a few paragraphs. It says here, in the short text that accompanies the lyric to this song, The Garden, inside the album's booklet, Peart credits one of the main inspirations for the Clockwork Angels story, Voltaire's Candide. After a life of struggle and misadventure, not dissimilar to the one experienced by Peart's character, Candide states that even after a life of struggle, we must continue to tend our garden. Peart's lyric is ultimately a piece about what he believes are life's most important aspects, love and respect. Regarded by Lee as one of his proudest moments as a songwriter, The Garden, through its many subtle changes, remains led by its gentle melody and heartfelt vocal. The addition of David Campbell's strings adds another layer to the track. Peart reveals that upon first hearing the song with the overlaid strings, nobody in the studio was dry-eyed. Lifeson's improvised solo was, like many others, initially recorded as a throwaway solo to stand in place until the final contribution was ready to record. However, the quality of Lifeson's delicate, heartfelt solo was immediately seen, and it remains unchanged on the album. The Garden is a song about a life completed. While the character singing it is fictional, Peart's words have an added depth now that, at the time of writing, and that now we know is Rush's swan song, their final stamp on the world of songwriting, the final statement from a band who, like their fans, have grown and changed in incredible and unexpected ways. and indeed an epitaph for Neil himself.
Indeed, yeah.
As you know, the late great Neil Peart, and superb, just superb. The whole song, just beautifully put together, and we've just said we've applauded it. It's just a fantastic way to finish this album off,
and just a fantastic way to end. You know, because even if he was still with us, it's the ending of a career where Neil Peart did things on his terms. He spent his entire life. He wasn't chasing fame or wealth. He just wanted to be the best drummer he could be, and the best writer he could be. He just wanted to be the best at what he. Not even in competition with anyone else. He was very humble. He never saw him boasting about being the best drummer in the world. He would blush if someone called him the best drummer in the world.
No, he actually found it quite embarrassing.
Yeah, he would be quite quick to say, no, if I was half the drummer Stuart Copeland was, I'm just trying to be as good as him. Or I'm just trying to be as good as Buddy Rich. He would deflect. Yeah. You know, but he was constantly trying to get better at his craft. He, you know, at the peak of his career, he's a millionaire selling out arenas all over the world. And he goes, you know what? I'm not good enough. I'm just going to get rid of my entire drum kit, buy a bare basics one, and start again.
Yeah.
And he learned to drum again. And, you know, he faced tragedy head on when many a lesser person, someone in a position like him as well, would have been perfectly understandable or perfectly common to have just. He could have drunk himself to death at that point and gone on a drink and drugs.
He could have done,
you know, and many a rock star in his position would have.
Yeah.
And he came out the other side and found a new lease for life, always looking for that meaning.
Yeah.
And when it came to the end, he did it on his terms. He didn't let the world dictate.
No.
He didn't delude himself either. Like the boxer that's got just one more fight. I can get the title back. I know I can. That one more fight, you know. Muhammad Ali, no disrespect, but he just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. You know, that singer that just one more tour. He knew when enough was enough, and he went, no, I'm doing it. No. 20 more shows. There isn't 20 more shows. Now. You know, and he was honest with himself to go, no, now's the time to stop. And it's so rare and so. Well, what musician really does that? When musician actually goes, no, do you know what, I've peaked? Or sportsman or an artist, whatever. When do they really go, no, here it is?
No, it's knowing when to bow out. I think so. I mean, I shared it before that Bill Bruford, formerly of Yes and King Crimson, he retired at 60. He knew when to.
Yeah.
He said it's just knowing when to go. And I suppose if you look at the boxing, it's Rocky. What's his name?
Balboa.
Not Balboa. Who was the actual boxer who retired undefeated on 49 fights?
Oh, Marciano.
Marciano.
Or Joe Calzaghe did as well. In fact, Joe Calzaghe actually beat Rocky Marciano's, I believe.
Yes, he did. He did, didn't he? But it's Rocky Marciano.
Although Rocky Marciano's was in a shorter period of time, but whatever.
Yeah. But it's knowing when to bow out and to say that's it. And Neil is another one of those. I think obviously the illness and stuff like that, but I think you shared it that it was in 2018 that he said, I've officially retired. And then, which was, he would have been at the age of 65. And then, of course, sadly, a couple of years later, he passed away.
This is the thing as well. I can't. But yeah, Neil Peart was a cool guy.
Yes, he was.
Like I say, look at the way celebrities are now. He wouldn't have been. You know, he probably wasn't a thing just yet. But think today he wouldn't have been on TikTok sharing pictures of a restaurant he's in, or
no, he wouldn't.
he wouldn't.
He wouldn't have been
He
on
wouldn't
I'm a
be on.
Celebrity,
He
Get
wouldn't
Me
be
Out
on
of
I'm a
Here.
Celebrity, Get Me Out. He wouldn't be on CNN spouting off about
No,
this, that, and
no, too right. You know,
telling everyone how to live their lives. He would have been the first guy. I don't know. Do he even went on political? He did go on. He was on Bill. Is it Bill Maher? Bill Meyer? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but
Politically Correct. It was a '90s show, and he would have 3 or 4 people. He'd have 2 people that side, 2 people that side. He had rock stars, comedians, writers, and they would talk about the topic of the day. And Neil Peart did go on that, and
he'd
he
listen. He'd listen to what was going on.
Yeah, he joined in and sort of said his piece, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
he wasn't really here or there. But
no, it was
he was just cool. Neil Peart was a cool guy, and I think we could all.
I mean, obviously, he's obviously missed by his 2 buddies, and obviously his family, but he's also missed by the legions of Rush fans, and he's still missed today. But we're thankful that we've got 20 fantastic albums that we can listen to, and listen to his contribution lyrically as well as drumistically, as he would say. And we're grateful for it. Yeah, what a fantastic, and a great band, and I'm certainly grateful for it, and certainly for many people, soundtrack of their lives.
Yeah,
and I would say it is for me, definitely. You know, there are other bands as well, but certainly Rush is in there for what they've given me, and the enjoyment and the inspiration as well. So I'm thankful to all 3 of them for that, definitely. I've got a little bit of liner notes here. You said something about some extended stuff. Got to talk about Hugh Syme's brilliant artwork on this.
Yeah, that's because
it's
as far as I was aware, you got a bare basic edition, or you've got the edition that we had that came with the magazine, which was a common thing. You had it with the latest Motorhead album at the time. It was basically a big thick magazine. It was like the guide to Motorhead. It was all interviews and album reviews and all the rest of it. Metal Hammer did it with Machine Head. They're onto the something about locusts. And then after this, so you had I think Slash, when Slash put out a solo album, he did it because it was a different singer on every song. Alice Cooper did it again. You got a big magazine guide to Alice Cooper. Blah 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 blah. Who else? Yeah, so it was a common thing at the time. Classic.
It
rock
was. It was. I think.
So I thought there was the classic rock edition, and then just a bare bones edition that came out later on, because everyone would have got this. But But no, apparently there's one with extensive liner notes, which I'm actually, because I love a liner note, ladies and gentlemen. And
yes, I do.
And I didn't buy the physical book, but I did get the book on Kindle. I just wanted to read it at the time. But I am really intrigued about this graphic novel, so I'm going to be.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
We're back on shift this weekend, me and Paul, so I'm going to be doing a bit of clickety click and seeing what I come up with. But
yeah, I mean it's great artwork. I mean, obviously all the liners and the insides. I mean all the steampunk world with its cogs. And the 12 symbols are alchemic symbols and images. And there's one alchemic symbol for each of the 12 songs.
Right.
That's what they are. They're symbols of alchemy. I don't know which each one represents, but there you go.
Oh, I'm sure that's a conspiracy theorist wet dream. That there'll be all sorts of symbols
and whatever.
They're aligned with
exactly. It says here, obviously the steamliners and the ships that are all on this essential to the album storytelling, filling the pages of the booklet which comes with the album. The depth of the album's concept is increased further still through these. The album's cover, obviously, it says here, features 12 alchemy runes, each referring to one of the album's 12 songs. Each alchemy rune is in place of a number on a clock, and the clock reads approximately 9:12, presumably in the evening, i.e. 21:12. Each of the band typically thank.
Oh yeah, look, if you look in the in the pages there.
That's it. Yeah, it's all in there.
Yeah, the symbol is by the.
All the symbols are there with each of the song, and the alchemist, the anarchist, has got a symbol on the back of his hand. So it's all there. Massive thanks. The band give their usual thanks to special RIPs.
This would be a good vinyl, actually.
Yeah, it would be. Was it?
It must be out on vinyl, surely.
I don't know. I've not seen it, but if I see it, I'll probably get it. There we go. I think. Right, the album itself, obviously, you've already said it was released in the summer. Yeah, 8th of June, 2012, which was 5 years after Snakes and Arrows. The album was recorded at Revolution Recording Toronto, October to December 2011, except for Caravan and BU2B, which were recorded at Blackbird Studios in Nashville in April 2010. Strings, we've already said, conducted by David Campbell, and piano on the Garden was played by Jason Snyderman. And the album is brought to you by the letter U, which is on there. Is on the album cover. It says it's one of the runes, which stands for. Where does it stand for?
Yeah, is that
the alchemy symbol for amalgamation.
Yeah, and that's the symbol on his hand.
That's it. Yeah, for amalgamation. The band's portrait was taken by Andrew McNaughton, the band's long-serving photographer and friend. McNaughton died early in 2012, and the album is dedicated to his memory. So that's a little bit of the pack. Chart positions: Canada, it was number 1, US number 2, and here in the UK it was 21. So it did sell well. I mean, getting to number 1 and number 2, can't really get much better than that.
Yeah.
So it did sell extremely well. The tour was 73 dates. Was from September 2012 through to December, and then reconvened in April of 2013 through to August 2013. Of those 73 dates, they did 10 in Europe, 5 here in the UK. But it was the bigger venues. They played it was the O2, but I see them at this point. The songs that they played pretty much all of the album. I'm not going to list the songs like I did last time. They played all the songs except BU2B and On and Off, Wish Them Well. All the rest of the songs they played on this album.
But that was played on the previous tour as a preview. So this song has been played.
Yeah. The only one that was never played live was BU2B2.
Yeah, but
that was it. Yeah. But that's that was only the precursor to.
We can let that one.
We can let that one go. It's just over a minute or a minute and a half. So that's it. That's all the information I've got. And obviously, Clockwork Angels tour followed the Time Machine tour, which was 82 dates. I know it was a bit of time anyway, but basically they did 2 world tours there. So this was their last world tour.
Well, what a journey this has been.
It has been.
We've come all the way from 1974 up until 2012, 20 albums. 22 albums, including solo albums. And thanks for joining me on this, Paul. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Pleasure.
But it's not over yet, folks.
No,
this is just the end of the main set. Hang about for a week or two. We're going to come back for an encore.
Yeah.
Because we've got 2 or 3 shows left to do.
Yeah.
So Like I
It's
say,
quite, yeah, it's a long encore, but
Yeah.
we're coming back.
yeah. So we've got this is like I said, this is the show where we are going through the whole back catalogue. So next up, we are going to be doing Envy of None, Alex Lyson's post Rush project, and word around the campfire is at the moment that there's a second album in the works. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But the next show we're going to be doing Envy of None. As mentioned before, me and Paul work in the same place, but we do the same shift as well. But my shift's going to go a bit weird in the next week or so. So I've got a combination of overtime and shift swaps, and I've basically ended up with 11 night shifts in a row. So when we would normally do the next show on our days off, I'm just not going to be around. So we're going to have a little bit of a break. Let me get these shifts out of the way, and then we'll reconvene and do Envy of None. Then after that, we're going to be doing a show where we're going to go through all of the live albums. So everything from All the World is a Stage up until the R40 DVD. Sure. We're just going to cover album by album, just like we go song for song, and just go the pros and the cons and the merits and the a brief guide to all the Rush albums, the Rush live albums, and what we're just going to go through them all basically, and then we're going to conclude with a summary episode where we're going to be choosing our top 5. Each going to be presenting our top 5 Rush albums. And I'm going to think of some other things as well, maybe like top favorite lyrics or favorite drums or favorite guitar solo. I'm going to put together a few Rush caveat fun debate things that we can have as a final episode, and then we will conclude it there. And then, bit like Maiden Cast, if something comes up, if someone releases a new album, maybe get a Lira over a solo album, maybe. Alex going to do another thing. Who knows? They may even work together. The future is unwritten, and so is Rushcast. We will conclude and then come back if something does come up. So it's not completely over yet, folks. Do join us in the future. But yeah, Rushcast will be back in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, get listening to Envy of None and join us for that time. And if not, we hope you enjoy Clockwork Angels. What's your favourite song? Did you see them on this tour? Where do you think this sits in the whole catalogue? Is it one of your favourite albums? Is it one of your least favourite? I have seen some people saying that they weren't fond of this album. I think they're bonkers, but it's a bonkers world. Indeed. So, if this is your first episode, please go back to the beginning. This is saved as a playlist. Episode 1 all the way through. Do it yourself. Work your way through the Rush back catalogue. Listen to an album a week, an album a day, and use this. An album a day is probably a bit of a mountain to climb, but one a week. That then. And listen away and use us. Either use this episode as an introduction, or listen to us at the end of the week and have a little comment and join in the conversation. This is your show as well as it is ours, and we've got the whole list for you there to go through at your leisure. You could be, the year could be 2034 or 2134. We could be long dead by now when you're watching this. How mad is that? So there you go. I don't know how to end it really.
I think I would turn around and say, folks, thanks for listening, and it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from him. So take care, everyone. See you next week.
Bye bye.